Hey, it's Jack from Jack Gately Real Estate and the Online Real Estate Academy. So, you've been warned, you NAR members out there, you've been warned about the workarounds to the NAR settlement, which became glaringly apparent the second it was released. And that was if you can't share commissions on the MLS, you could do it off MLS, right? And now they're saying, well, maybe we shouldn't have commissions posted anywhere. That's what the Department of Justice told the judge here in Boston. And you're getting warnings from your leaders that the Department of Justice and NAR, for that matter, is going to be aggressively hunting you down effectively if you start to kind of work around the settlement. In a statement sent to NAR members on July 2nd, Kevin Sears confirmed executives of the trade organization met with the Department of Justice. And look at Mr. Sears' quote. The DOJ continues to keep a close eye on perceived efforts to create loopholes or workarounds with the intent of circumventing the settlement agreement. Sears wrote in a message posted Saturday on Realtor Hub. So he's warning realtors, don't try to get around this here. Obey the new rules. Obey the new rules. The problem is, and I think this comes from a mindset of basically for the last several decades being able to dictate their own terms. The problem is that not everybody is subject to the NAR settlement. Like, for instance, I'm not. And there are a boatload of entrepreneurs out there that are not even licensed at all that aren't. And more importantly, sellers are not. So I wrote an article today at Gately Estate. You can go over and read that at gatelyestate.com. The commission workaround DOJ, the commission workaround, the Department of Justice might not be able to stop. The First Amendment rights of sellers are not restricted by the NAR settlement. So last week, Ricky Carruth, who's kind of a YouTube blowhard, in my opinion, issued this statement on his community tab on YouTube. Quote, and I am going to stress I'm quoting this here because how do I want to say this? This is a torturous sentence that I don't want to have any credit for actually writing. Ricky might want to think about tightening up your sentence structure. Just a thought. But here's the quote. The new rules being forced on real estate agents on August 17th are unconstitutional through their blockage of home sellers' freedom of speech by preventing them from communicating about offering a buyer's agent commission, even if they wish. By the way, you can get this article over at gatelyestate.com. Gatelyestate.com. The thing is again, sellers' First Amendment rights are not being restricted by the NAR settlement. That's not what's being restricted by the NAR settlement. Licensees, in particular realtor licensees, are being restricted by the settlement. There have been several companies that have launched to kind of fill this loophole. And remember, I'm not a lawyer, so go seek your own legal advice. This is entertainment only. Nestook, Listing Split, Getcha, all companies that are trying to take advantage of the opening. I think Getcha actually already existed. And I launched a purely satirical version of this called commissionpost.com, which is ridiculously powered by a Google form. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. But I did it just to prove about how big the loophole exists in the settlement. And in researching this, I found that there were a couple of things wrong with some of the solutions. or workarounds, so to speak. And let's keep in mind that if one of these things actually works, it will have the net effect of basically negating the downward pressure on buyer side commissions if it actually works. If there's a workaround, so to speak, that's powered solely by sellers, if they're able to share their commission in a way that the industry had formerly been accustomed to, and it's powered solely by sellers, that would effectively defeat the goal of the bombshell commission lawsuit, which was to negate the inflation of buyer agency commissions. So, do we have a solution like that? One of these is approaching that. One of these is approaching that. Nestook, as currently configured, is agent-centric. It's all about how you as the agent can work around the NAR settlement. Well, that's going to be immediately problematic with the Department of Justice and Kevin Sears at the National Association. Really, understand the National Association is now going to be the enforcer of the settlement, right? Because they understand if they're found to have facilitated some type of workaround or allowed their members to work it around or turned a blind eye to that type of activity, understand that's going to be even more trouble for the National Association. So the National Association is now going to be an enforcer of the settlement. Wrap that around your head. But Nestook approaches this from an agent-centric point of view. In other words, the agent adds the information to some type of website that a bunch of people go to find out what the commission is off MLS. Getcha was already kind of a marketplace, and I don't even understand Getcha. It's like it's some type of marketplace so that buyers and renters can publicize exactly what they're looking for. And the founder of Getcha, Dan Cooper, who I'm sure is a nice guy, I have no idea who he is, basically said the ruling in the Sitzer case was just basically a happy accident for his company. It wasn't something that his company's actually targeted to solve. By the way, full disclosure, I have no relationship with any of these companies mentioned in this video, other than the completely ridiculous and satirical commissionpost.com, which I put up just as a joke. But otherwise, I have no relationship with any of these other companies. There is one company that seems to be headed in the right direction. And that is because they're seller-centric. And that's called listing split. And doing a little bit of a deep dive, not that deep, but doing a little bit deep dive on their website, I did find one or two things that I think would be problematic, but they're headed in the right direction. If you think the right direction is finding a workaround, they're headed in it. You know, we could debate whether or not finding a workaround is the right direction or not, but that's the direction they're headed in. They're headed in a solution where they might not run into, I hate to use a double negative here, they might not run into a Department of Justice problem. Why? Because it's powered by sellers. It's seller-centric. And it's a platform where the seller can add the commission that they're willing to offer. Not the agent, the seller can add that. So here it is here. We've created a system to work in harmony with the new established guidelines of NAR. Listingsplit.com is real estate's leading site for sellers to incentivize buyers. I'd actually kind of say it's the goal of the site for sellers to incentivize buyer agents. But let's not quibble on the language. But here's one thing that I think is problematic with Listing Split. And that's listing split will allow the seller to add the list agent to their account, and then the listing agent can add the incentive on their behalf. And the quote, the seller will improve the incentive before it goes live. This provides 1 degree of separation while adding an extra layer of protection. Does it? Well, is the Department of Justice going to see it that way? I don't know. That might be a feature that they might want to think twice about, because it's probably not worth the Department of Justice investigating you over that particular feature. Just, again, not a lawyer, just food for thought there. Because I don't think the Department of Justice is going to see that as they're going to see it as an excuse to investigate. Whether or not actually anything comes of it is another thing altogether. But the point is, and I think this is kind of summarizing it up here. And by the way, you can get this over at gatelyestate.com, at gatelyestate.com. Free, subscribe, all that other good stuff. If a purely decentralized seller-centric solution were to gain widespread acceptance, and that's a whole leap right there, of course, it's hard to envision how the Department of Justice would apply antitrust law to such an approach. And of course, the internet, and all its beauty, can be like a decentralized communication platform, right? You cannot stop a seller from I'm just going to make a ridiculous example, from putting a sign in the front yard that says we're offering 3%, right? If you list your house with Century 21 and then and they put the Century 21 yard sign in there, and the seller themselves put some sign in the yard, 3% to buyer agents, you can't stop them from doing that. That's their First Amendment right to do it. And you also can't stop them from doing that on some type of decentralized platform on the internet, right? Which effectively is what I launched when I launched the stupid commission split website. I got it wrong. Because I allowed the seller agency, the buyer agency, and even the nosy neighbor to list the commission split. But if you pared those options down to just the seller, then it's really hard to see how, if at all, not being a lawyer, the Department of Justice could attack that. And also, I would add, if you had a platform like that would be incredibly valuable, you could monetize that 8 ways to Sunday, right? You could make a significant amount of money on that. And this is what I'm talking about. If you heard me hint on this many, many times, if you continue to think about our business and you continue to think about your role as a real estate agent, well, then that's okay. But I think you'll do better if you start to think about your role as an entrepreneur, and you'll just have you'll have a lot more opportunities. Let's just put it that way. Listingsplit.com apparently seems to be the only platform right now that's looking at it from a seller-centric point of view. Now, if you go back in the history of technology, you'll notice that just because you're the first company to come up with something doesn't mean you're ultimately going to be the company that wins the marketplace. But getting a head start is usually a help, right? It's a help. And I think it's the hubris of the National Association and even the Department of Justice and kind of wagging their finger they're missing the point that not everyone is going to be subject to the NAR settlement, and there could be creative workarounds that are legal under the Constitution. All right, let's see if we have any questions. We don't. We have a good audience this morning. Thank you so much. In the meantime, I want you to ponder that and then go out and make some money today. You have a great day. Bye-bye.